2017 CEO Award of the Year. Ellen Drake first served her nation as a U.S. aviator. Then moved into industry and has had a remarkable 20-year career, highly competitive in the aerospace, defense, and automotive industries. In 2015, Ellen was named Chief Executive Officer and President of Aerojet Rocketdyne, a world-recognized provider of rocket propulsion and solutions for the space and defense industry for more than 5,000 employees in 14 states across the country. Aerojet Rocketdyne is an icon in the aerospace industry and defense sector with impressive accomplishments from providing the rocket engines that have launched every U.S. astronaut into space from American soil, to providing a spacecraft like Voyager that's going beyond our solar system into interstellar space. They provide rocket propulsion for our armed forces on the ground, in air, and in the seas, to develop hypersonic rocket propulsion that's providing new capabilities for America's warfighters. Under Mrs. Drake's company, Rocketdyne has been awarded a $1.4 billion contract for engines to power the NASA's new spaceship launch system, entered into an agreement with the U.S. Air Force to develop the AR-1 engine, American-made rocket engine that will end the dependence of the use of Russian rocket engines, was selected to develop propulsion systems for the Air Force Minuteman III systems, provided propulsion systems for the U.S. interceptors to destroy intercontinental ballistic missiles, and in the last few weeks won a defense research project for the agency to develop advanced hypersonic propulsion that can lead to responsive hypersonic aircraft for a variety of military purposes. But today's recognition is just not about what Rocketdyne has done. I'd like to thank everybody when she comes up, to thank her for her long line of U.S. military service as an aircraft fighter, pilot of helicopters and aircraft, fixed-wing aircraft. She comes from a long family of military service in the country, and she's a graduate of the U.S. Army Aviation Officer School and spent 7 years on duty in the U.S. Army as an aviator. Please, everyone, help me welcome Mrs. Ellen Drake.
Good afternoon. Thank you, David, for that warm introduction. It's a true pleasure to be here today, ladies and gentlemen, to help celebrate the 30th anniversary of the Federal Law Enforcement Foundation. And it's a big pleasure to be in a room of such distinguished guests. I don't think I've ever felt safer in my life. I'm just waiting for someone to whip out some handcuffs and do something kind of crazy. I also would like to, I was kidding with that. Please don't do it until I sit down so I don't get blamed for it. My boss is here today. I would also like to congratulate the other award recipients here today. Congratulations on all of your hard work. And a big thank you for this award that you're bestowing upon me today. It's a great honor and I'm truly humbled by it. I would like to first start my remarks with my sincere condolences to Tony Bergamo's family, especially to his family that's here today, his lovely wife, Anna, that I had the pleasure to meet, his sister Leslie, and his sons James and George. You know, they say behind every great leader is a strong support system, and I'm sure you all were behind him every step of the way. And my condolences as well to everybody in the room who knew and loved Tony. You know, Tony had a very unique vision, and he was able to see his vision become reality. And that was to bring together business leaders and government leaders to help support the families of law enforcement. He truly was a patriot and a champion of law enforcement, but also a champion of humanity. And as you saw today, Tony's memory will be cherished every single day through the hard work and the legacy that he helped to start, as well as all the sponsors and the hard work that happens in this room every day, but mostly by the life-changing work that the federal law enforcement does every single day. You know, the employees and the 5,000 rocket scientists at Aerojet Rocketdyne share your passion for supporting and honoring those of law enforcement and first responders. For the last 7 decades, Aerojet Rocketdyne has produced, manufactured, and supplied the propulsion systems for the Department of Defense and for NASA. We provide the propulsion systems that help our warfighters defend our nation, as well as provide the power that helps launch those beautiful spacecraft that you see, and also to propel the satellites that have visited every single planet in the solar system. At Aerojet Rocketdyne, I like to say our mission is to keep the warfighter safe and to allow the world to discover the universe. I find that some pretty impactful work that I find extremely rewarding. I also find the work of the Federal Law Enforcement Foundation pretty personal to me. I come from a very long line of first responders and people who served their nation. In fact, my grandfather was the chief of the fire department in North Providence, Rhode Island in the 1930s. My uncle was a Thunderbolt pilot in World War II. In fact, he even got shot down and survived, and he's got some great stories to tell. My dad was a proud Marine who served in the Korean War, and both my brothers and I served as Army officers in the U.S. Army. My older brother, a West Point graduate and an infantry officer. My younger brother as a military intelligence officer, and I served as an Army aviator flying UH-1 helicopters and C-12 airplanes. They always razzed me a lot because they wanted to be pilots, but they blamed it on being colorblind, and I always blamed it on them not being as smart as I was to become a pilot. And I hope if this is being videotaped, that part is left out, because both my brothers are Army Rangers, and I'm kind of scared of them a little bit, so I don't want that. You know, the legacy of my family continues with my young nephew, who's a volunteer firefighter in my hometown, my state, Little, Rhode Island. And as I mentioned, behind every leader is a strong support system. I'm really happy today to have some of my family members here with me today. My mom, my sister Janet, extended members of my family, B and Deb, and of course my boss, Warren Lichtenstein. And not only is Warren a great supporter of the Federal Law Enforcement Foundation, but also is the executive chairman of Aerojet Rocketdyne. And selfishly, what I like most about my boss is that he gave me the unbelievable opportunity to run the coolest rocket company in the free world. Which is yeah. About the mission of the Federal Law Enforcement Foundation, I can't help but think about September 11th, 2001, and I think we all remember where we were that day. I was in Indianapolis, Indiana, and as I watched the events of that day unfold on the TV, I was most taken back by news commentator after news commentator and how they talked about the first responders running into burning buildings and running up flights of stairs to save people. And although we will never be able to repay those people that paid the ultimate sacrifice, we can honor and cherish their memory by taking care of their families and their loved ones. And I find it very admirable that the Federal Law Enforcement Foundation somewhat modified their original mission to also support and take care of those families of the first responders of 9/11 that died or were injured that day. So as I look in this audience today of all the law enforcement and the first responders, I am truly honored to stand in front of you. I'm equally as honored to run Aerojet Rocketdyne, a company that is entrusted with providing the propulsion that is so critical to our nation. In fact, the Department of Defense often refers to Aerojet Rocketdyne as a critical national asset. We provide the propulsion for both defense and space. On the defense side, our propulsion systems are used for the U.S. military in the air, on the ground, and on the sea. Some of the things that our products help do, they're very important missions. We help power our nation's intercontinental ballistic missiles. We launch those satellites into deep space for national security. And we also help intercept the enemy's missiles in deep space. And I'm very proud that we participated in the highly publicized Missile Defense Agency test that you might have seen on the news in June. It was the first time ever that the United States intercepted an intercontinental ballistic missile target. And Aerojet Rocketdyne was a part of that successful test. We designed and produced the divert attitude control, which is actually what shoots down and kills the exo-atmospheric turbulence. I'll tell you that day the pucker factor was up and we didn't get to practice that test, and thank goodness it was a very successful test. The important work that we're doing right now on our defense side is we're developing the solid propulsion systems for the replacement of the Minuteman, which will be the ground-based strategic deterrent system, which will make our U.S. military even stronger. On the space piece of our business, we've been working with NASA for decades. We were with them with a big race to the moon. We produced the mighty RS-25 engines that were on the space shuttle. And today we're redesigning those engines for NASA's Space Launch System and Lockheed Martin's Orion spacecraft that will once again bring humans into deep space, like places like the moon and Mars. And we're supposed to get to Mars in the 2030s, which will be unbelievable to see the first man or woman step foot on Mars. The other thing that we do in our space business that's very applicable to what you all do for a living is we help to launch those satellites into deep space. Those satellites that provide very important imaging for our national reconnaissance as well as our global positioning information. We provide the observance for crime prevention and national security, and we also provide the very important ground communications for our federal and local enforcement agencies around the world. And as David mentioned, the biggest thing that we're working on right now is developing our AR-1, Aerojet Rocketdyne 1, engine, which is our call to action that the Congress and administration made to end our reliance on the Russians and their engines for national security missions by 2019. So the AR-1 engine is an all-American made engine. It'll be the first engine made all-American to replace a Russian engine by 2019. We're very, very proud of that. So in closing, I would like to accept this award on behalf of the 5,000 employees at Aerojet Rocketdyne. You know, our employees are very proud of what they do for the United States of America, and just as we have men and women serving our nation in the military, as first responders, and in law enforcement, our employees see what they do every day as very important to our country and to our safety. In fact, one of my recent employees that I just hired, my chief of staff, Stephen Brightman, came to me from the Army. He actually ran a Patriot battery company, and we make the propulsion for the Patriot. He's a West Point grad. And so he sees this as an extension of his service to the military, just as I see being able to run Aerojet Rocketdyne as an extension of the service that I did as an Army aviator. When I met Steve, and I couldn't help but be excited about who his family is and some of his family members. So today I actually asked his dad, and he's super nervous because he's not here, but his dad is here with his new boss. But his dad, retired Lieutenant Bob Brightman, who's sitting with us today, was a police officer in New Jersey. He was the acting chief of police during Sandy. And he was also recognized as a police officer of the year in 2012. And that's just a small example of the type of employees and family members that we have at Aerojet Rocketdyne. So in closing, on behalf of all of our employees, I'd like to thank everybody for what you do on a daily basis to protect our families and to keep our community safe. I would like to offer my personal appreciation for the Federal Law Enforcement Foundation Board of Directors, the Advisory Board, the sponsors, the donors, and the volunteers in this room that will continue to make and keep Tony Bergamo's vision a reality. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the lunch. Thank you for this unbelievable award you're giving me today, and God bless.
Gentlemen, on behalf of all of us here, me personally, I never thought I'd get to speak directly to the CIA or talk to the woman that's going to make Kim Jong-un basically a non-factor. On behalf of all the federal law enforcement people here and all the members that support us.
Thank you, Eileen. Thank you, David. When listening to Eileen, you know, I just got this job a few weeks ago. Pardon me, but I did not, in listening to her talk about first responders and run-in, I think I did not introduce our fire commissioner, David Negro, who's on the dais. I think, and if I didn't, I apologize. I'm just given a lot of papers and told to read.